Hi everyone. So today we'll be discussing more about marketing in general. I know the course is about digital marketing and its applications, stuff like SEO, search engine marketing, social media, and all that stuff. But I just wanted to go back to the basics once more before you take the final plunge. And these slides have some of the best practices, the basic theories in marketing, which should help you in the long run. So just have a look when you get time. I'll be also sharing the PDF, the PowerPoint that I'm referring to here, so that it stays with you. So one thing that we need to keep in mind is that in the era of globalization and the fact that everyone is closer to each other these days via social media, via the other platforms, it is very important for your marketing to be a fit in the cross-cultural environment. So make sure that you are not offending anyone. Your content is agreeable to all caste, creeds, sex, nationalities, stuff like that. So this is what Dr. Philip Kotler defines marketing as. So he refers to marketing as the science and art of exploring, creating, and delivering value. And it is basically being used to satisfy the needs of a target market at a profit. So I remember in my B school days, we used to remember the definition of marketing as the acronym CCD, which basically says creating, communicating, and delivering value. So when we talk about value, it can be some kind of a notional benefit that you are getting. It can be in the form of some kind of an economic benefit that you are getting. But ultimately, it's about creating, communicating, and delivering value. So here in this definition on this slide, it refers as exploring, creating, and delivering value. It's pretty much the same. Now, these marketing basics need to be clubbed with certain other pillars like culture, communication. Then there are different organizations, and of course, the management of whatever company you are working in. So these four pillars are what which shapes the overall marketing objective of your plan or your overall marketing objectives. So whenever we do a market analysis, we need to ensure that we are doing some kind of an environment analysis. It's basically nothing but an external analysis of, say, things like the political structure of the country. It can be economical analysis, it can be social analysis, technological, legal. So all those factors come in the environment analysis. For buyer behavior, it is more about the direct customer contact and researching about the ultimate buyers of the product or service you are projecting. And then ultimately, it's also about the market research, which is basically about the industry research that we need to do before we do any kind of marketing plan or anything like that. So again, this is again segmentation basic, which I have referred to in my earlier videos also. So it talks about behavioral segmentation, demographics, geographic, psychographic. So I remember telling you a lot, and I've told you this many times, that make sure that you always do psychographic segmentation, especially for products which are relatively expensive. So in that product range, psychographic plays a major role. Then there are things like standardization, adaptation, So when we talk about standardization, it's more to do with economies of scale. It's more to do with getting more profits out of whatever you are selling. The more you personalize, the higher the price will be for that product or service. Adaptation is what the different companies do in different markets. So if you see the example of soup, so it's different for Europe, in Asia, North America. So this is what you are expected to do whenever you are working in any marketing role. You need to personalize your product to the extent possible, but at the same time, you need to standardize it as well to ensure that you don't really go out of budget. Again, when we are standardizing it, you need to ensure that it doesn't really affect any particular geography or some particular race. So if you see the fragile symbol was perceived to be a broken glass in Africa. So this is something you need to keep in mind whenever you are trying to standardize it. Again, if you are packaging four golf balls in Japan, it's perceived to be inauspicious and unpopular. In fact, four is associated with death in Japan. Again, Umbro, which is a sportswear manufacturer, named a running shoe after a lethal gas which was used for extermination in World War II. So there are various examples. So Coors in Spanish means something else. So keep these things in mind. Again, Kraft did it really well for its market leader biscuit called Oreo. It's still working in many geographies. I'm not sure about the country you are from, but especially in India, it is still working well. And there's also a YouTube link. You should definitely go through it when you get time. You can see that Oreo was considered to be too sweet for Chinese people, but they changed it, and today China is the second largest consumer of Oreo products. So again, you need to personalize it as much as possible for you to have a favorable response. Again, as I said earlier, it's doing really well in India. So they did a customization plan for Indian public as well, and ultimately it worked for them. Again, so this is related to more of branding. So when we consider Red Bull, you can see that red, which is one of its core branding color, it's a symbol of action, courage. Silver shows maturity, and blue symbol of youth, shows spirituality and peace. Whereas it's totally different for the Chinese. So they are going for red and gold for the product in China. Again, if we see the product Dove, it's totally different in Iran, but whereas if we see it in some other country, it's quite different. Generally, if you refer to any textbook, they refer to four P's of marketing, which are product, place, price, and promotion. But in this slide, we have three more P's for you, which refer to people, process, and physical evidence. So these three P's are new additions to the general framework which is used in the er, in the marketing field. One thing that we need to make sure is that whenever we are doing any marketing campaign or anything of that sort, we need to focus on the customer a lot, and we need to integrate as many marketing functions as possible. Again, this is something which is related to social media. So when we talk about relationship management, social media plays a big role. So you need to keep this in mind that whenever you are using some kind of a social media platform, one of the core objectives should be relationship maintenance. Again, so if we are trying to do any cross-border market research, there are different barriers for that, different problems that you can face. Some of them are listed below on the slide. It talks about language barriers. Obviously, the sensitivity is a major issue as well. Research techniques, cultural differences, suspicion, statistical comparisons, and fragmentation. Again, international marketing is increasing on a day-to-day basis because of the globalization era. So I talked about this analysis earlier also. I was talking about the external analysis, the environment analysis. So if you see the environment analysis, it covers things like political, economical, social, technological, legal, environmental. In general, this is referred to as the PESTEL framework, which is used a lot. And I repeat, this is used a lot. So always remember this framework whenever you are doing some kind of an external analysis for a market. It's really helpful. Again, intercultural marketing approach is about adapting products and marketing strategies to the consumer preference so that there is some kind of a cultural identification with the product. If the day a customer starts to identify himself or herself with a product, that's the day when your product becomes the market leader. So this is an unsaid rule which is generally followed in the marketing world, but you need to keep this in mind. Again, I know this term is misused a lot, but when we talk about branding, when we talk about a brand, this is nothing but which helps you to identify a range of products and service. It can be a logo, it can be a color, it can be the packaging, it can be anything for that matter. But generally, it refers to any element which helps you to identify a particular product or a service. And there are various cultural influences on the brand meaning. It can be collectivism, power distance, masculinity, uncertainty, avoidance. Again, this is way too technical. You might not need it, but if you want to refer it this document in future, you are free to refer to this slide. I'll be sharing this slide with you. Again, always try to ensure that you don't offend any national images whenever you are doing any kind of a branding activity. I talked about this earlier as well. The fact that the broken glass symbol for fragile was perceived to be very different in Africa. The word course was perceived to be something else in Spain. So we need to make sure that this doesn't happen for your brand elements and your branding is relevant for the country you are doing it for. Again, advertising is nothing but something which is intended to create a link between producer and consumer. There are various types of advertising. I won't really go into the details right now. It's a totally different chapter altogether. But try to learn about above the line and below the line advertising if ever you try to learn more about it. Again, it's kind of a repetition. The meaning of brand should be relevant across cultures, and more importantly, it should not offend any caste, creed, sex, religion, nationality. Perception is the most important thing in marketing, and perception is what shapes your marketing. Research perception is what shapes your ultimate results that you get out of your marketing campaign. So, nothing is absolute when we talk about marketing. It's always the way people perceive your product as. So, make sure that you learn more about perception and how and the different theories behind it. Again, if you say intended meaning of the brand and the perceived meaning of the brand can be very, very different. So, if there is any intersection between the two, that is where you should focus on, and that is where you should try to communicate. Again, the conclusion to this session will be that we should focus more on the consumer than on the marketing methods. And whenever we are communicating, maintain a balance between product, message, and perception about the product. Thank you very much.